no doubt over the course of the next half hour we can glean help and advice from you. I've often quoted this on air, speaking to different listeners on all manner of subjects. Whenever it comes to younger members of the family, they don't come with a manual, do they?
No, wouldn't it be nice if they did?
Certainly would be helpful, that is for sure. Is there such a thing as a child with perfect behaviour?
No, there's no such thing as a perfect child in the same way there's no such thing as an average child. Everybody's unique and parents have to figure their own little prince or princess out for themselves.
So what you're telling me here, tantrums are inevitable at some stage of their development?
I'm not sure they're inevitable, but I haven't met a family yet whose toddler hasn't had one. So, yeah, I would say they're pretty part of normal behaviour.
I'm going to twist this one totally on its head, if I possibly can, for a second here. Seeing as you are the doctor, seeing as you are the psychologist, perhaps you can help me out with the answer to this question. What are children trying to tell us when they are misbehaving?
Normally it's frustration. It's often that their language or part of their development hasn't caught up with some other part of it. So maybe they know they want something, but they can't articulate what they want, and it gets frustrated. And that often is the cause of a tantrum.
I don't want to be allocating blame here, but does that suggest that maybe the parent, the grandparent, the guardian isn't communicating correctly with the child or sufficiently for them to understand?
No, it's part of natural development. The development doesn't happen in a very nice, steady, uniform way, and children develop different skills at different times, and so it's just a natural sort of bump and challenge of development. The key is how you deal with it, and the key is to make sure that it doesn't become a learned behaviour. The first couple of tantrums, most children will have. Children who have repeated tantrums are learning that is something that works for them.
One thing I'm learning within the opening 5 to 10 minutes of this morning's show, listeners to BBC Radio Cumbria, be it a parent, a grandparent or a guardian looking after the little darlings, no one should be beating themselves with a guilt stick then.
No,
this is a part and process of growing up. It's that communication process, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is. There are things you can do to minimise them, and obviously prevention is better than cure. So if you can notice the signs and distract children so that they don't get frustrated about what it is that they're trying to communicate and divert their attention, because young children are very easily diverted normally. So there are things you can do to reduce the number of tantrums, and there are things you can do to reduce the number of recurrences, but the chances are they will happen at some point, and you can't always be on top of everything.
What is going to be interesting as we make our way through the course of this morning's show is that hopefully listeners to the programme will be getting on board and hopefully serving up some first-hand experience as to how they deal with children who, let's face it, misbehave from time to time. It's all part of the growing process. 0845 305 1122. Amanda, stay there. We'll bring into the conversation Matthew, joining us from Kendal. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning.
You just heard there what Dr. Amanda Gummer has had to say. Would you agree with the comments?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I mean, I was interested to hear you say I'm going to twist things on the head, because my question would be to Amanda about how part of it is about parents behaving badly. Because I'll give a little anecdote. I was at the swimming pool yesterday with my two under 10 children, and there was a parent with his children, two girls under 10, and they were kind of messing about in the pool and splashing and basically doing what comes completely naturally and freely in the pool. But he continued, and I was kind of keeping an eye on it, continued to tell them off for playing naturally in the pool as though it was naughty. And I was thinking, that's not naughty. And then when we got into the changing rooms afterwards, and they were kind of just playing beautifully, I thought, and just kind of running, not being tearaways, but kind of, hiding in the changing cubicles and things like that. And then he was kind of knocking on the door saying, right, that's it, you're not watching the film this evening. And I was thinking, I can't believe this. This is actually free, natural play. And so my question is, I suppose, what does Amanda consider in her kind of experience when she sees parenting out and about to be over strict parenting that there seems to be a kind of a psychology that, publicly, possibly good behaviour, absolutely good behaviour is the right thing, and anything that slightly, varies from that must be clamped down on. And I worry about what the repercussions are for those beautifully happy young children who are basically being told off for playing.
Amanda?
Yeah, I think it is that there is a sort of pushy parent syndrome where parents are overscheduling and making sure their children are, grade whatever at music, and they're learning French from the age of 4, and they're doing, numerous things, and it's all very much about trying to create this perfect child. And I think that is sad, and it does undermine the natural sort of child development, and it can be damaging to their self-esteem and their mental health in later life. So I don't know that the incident that you were describing, I would say I wasn't there, but I don't know that would be particularly damaging. But I do think that it's important to let kids be kids and to let them play freely with as little supervision as possible, so that they're able to develop some really important skills. Skills like communication, compromise, negotiation, all of those skills that they don't get if they're constantly being supervised and constantly being sort of reprimanded.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And the other little scenario I was going to mention was we have our 2 children, of course, they're normal children. They will bicker and fight and have these little conflicts at home. And I'm often wondering where I'm kind of listening with one ear and wondering when I should intervene, knowing that sooner or later they need to deal with the outside world and deal with difficult people and deal with conflicts. And it seems to me that if you leave them long enough, as long as there is a kind of if you like, an aural supervision rather than intervening, then they can actually deal with the conflict themselves and not tear each other's eyes out, but actually resolve the conflict, because the conflict is natural to them, isn't it? It's natural to people.
Yeah, and it's an important lesson. The only caveat I'd put on that is that if there tends to be always an aggressor and always a victim, then it's worth intervening earlier, because they get into patterns. And what you don't want, especially if there's a sort of a big age gap, is that one child always gives in to the other one for the quiet life, and that's how they resolve the differences, because that's not doing the victim, if you like, any favours.
Yeah.
They're learning behaviour that will make them vulnerable at school and everything.
Amanda, can I just come in here with another observation and a question, and something that you touched on? Many parents, they bring a baby into this world, and they want to be seen to be doing the right thing, and obviously they're under immense pressure. I've not got children myself. Members of my family have, and close friends. I'm a godfather to several children. One of my dearest friends, she took me to one side when she and her husband, they had their first tot, their first child was born, and she said, I really want your involvement here. You're going to be his godfather. What do you expect? What do you want from us as Christopher's godfather? And I thought this was the most amazing question to be asked. And I said, why are you asking me? And she said, the more heads involved here in help and support in the raising of this child, the better. And I'd really appreciate your advice. And the only thing I remember offering there and then, and she stood by this, and we talk about it to this day, I said, please promise me one thing. You'll let Christopher be a child for as long as he possibly can, because childhood, it's so short. And it appears to me, and again, I come back to parents, are they under pressure here, that a child is almost forced to grow up so quickly? It's got to be good at music by the age of 4, or already education and an additional tuition on this subject, that subject. They get so very little time to be children.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. And I think your friend was very wise. There's an African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. And I think in today's society, where you have a lot more sort of nuclear families and parents are moving away from their families, they don't have the support networks, it is much harder, and the pressure on parents themselves is huge. So I do think we are in a different time frame. It's a different generation. So I think we do have our own challenges, especially with things like increased working parents, economic migration. All of those things impact on the family dynamics, and they do make parents feel the pressure a lot more.
Matthew, thank you for joining us on the show. Matthew from Kendal, observations, the way he sets about raising his 2 young children. Dr. Amanda Gummer, she's the lady behind the website The Good Toy Guide. She's a